And the button says we are live. Welcome to the Nilvah Nexus. My name is James at the Idol Smasher YouTube page and host of our Thursday night roundtable gathering discussion, shared commentary, and just an all-around handshake and mind-blowing experience here at the Nilvah Nexus. We do this every Thursday night, North Central American time, or North American Central, right? And if you like what you see and you're watching this thing and you want to join in the conversation, or you'd like notifications of when you'd like to come in and discuss this kind of good stuff, all you have to do is message the Idol Smasher YouTube page, jamestheidolsmasher@gmail.com. And you can also join the Nilvah Nexus Facebook page. Over there on Facebook, we have an update every week. You'll get a link every Thursday night when this thing's going on. It's a different link every night. Or every time we do it. So you get the link and then you come in here and join us that way. And today we're talking about the priesthood and how it developed and how it came from what it did. Lee's here. Shalom, Lee. Welcome to the group.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's your group too.
Carry on. You were discussing the priesthood.
Yeah, the Parsha, Teruma. I have well, first off, let's because I like to open Torah study with a blessing. So blessed are you, O Lord our God, ruler of the universe, who has chosen Israel from all the peoples and given to them your Torah on Mount Sinai to be allotted to the nations, so that everyone would know how to serve you, our God, creator of all things, and by doing so merit everlasting life. Something from a great little resource, particularly for the beginner. Service from heart. Now Ross has got some good stuff. Ross got busy. Ross is being occupied at the moment. His time is being occupied, but we discussed something before we went live, and there's something really cool.
All right, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. Teruma. Okay, we are in what we do here every week. If you're watching this for the first time, we talk Torah, particularly the portion Parsha of the week. We moved back here in this one. I have it ready over here. We're in Teruma, which is Exodus 24. Believe it starts at verse 9. Hang on a minute here. Let me get all organized here. I'm looking at Kitisa. So this is, hang on a minute. I'm a little ahead of us. First I was behind, now I'm ahead. There.
I've got us starting on 27.
At Teruma?
I'm on. Was Teruma last week?
Yeah, I guess it was. That's right. That was the tabernacle.
Yeah, we're on the garments now. Tetzaveh.
Tetzaveh. Yes.
Which is sorry, it's okay, no problem. And it's chapter 27, verse 20.
That's the man right there. I didn't have my stone open to the right one. I had my Hertz wasn't open. My stone was, but I try to use the Hertz. Stone's pretty popular. Everyone uses the stone. Shalom Allen likes to use a stone. So I keep my Sensino handy, which is a great buy. The relatively low in price. The Sensino, you can find them a used copy, which I did, but it's a little older, so you have to be a little more delicate, but there's some great stuff in there you're not going to get anywhere else, or as far as an English Chumash. Where are we at here? Tetzaveh. Let's go ahead and read I've got a little resource here that Yonahan sent me. It's the Gutnik edition. You might want to call it the Chabad Chumash, because that's what they like to do. It's their Chumash. Another fantastic resource. I've got a few of them now. I'm probably going to get more. One day I'm going to get one for every one of them, a couple of them for every every prophet. Wouldn't that be nice? But in here, it talks about the meaning of what we call the Parsha. It has to do with basically what's in the first sentence of the first big word in the portion. But this week, it says the word Tetzaveh literally means command, as the opening verse of our Parsha reads, and you should command the children of Israel to bring to you pure olive oil. However, Tetzaveh is also a derivative of the word tzava, meaning connection. According to this translation, the verse would read, and you should connect the Jewish people. This hints to the fact that Moshe connects the Jewish people to God. When he succeeds in this, and actually I could say that's anybody, really, particularly the Jewish people. When he succeeds in this task, Moshe becomes spiritually strengthened, for as a true Jewish leader, the entire essence and being is bound up with the people, so that when the people increase their connection with God, it makes Moshe stronger. There is hinted to at the end of the verse, they should bring to you pure olive oil, i.e. when Moses connects the Jewish people to God, Moshe's own spiritual light goes stronger. This verse continues, crushing for lighting, i.e. when the Jewish people are crushed in exile, there's always a Jewish leader of the caliber of Moshe to be found, referred to in the Zohar as the extension of Moshe in every generation. This leader can take a people who are spiritually crushed and transform them to be ready for lighting, spiritually awake and illuminated. Then the Jewish people can reach the level indicated by the end of the verse to ignite the lamp until it burns continually, i.e., that they become spiritually self-sufficient to the extent that they no longer rely on their leader and that they can burn continually without his direct input. Based on Sefer Hama Amorim, Melekot, Volume 6, page 129. So the priesthood. There's Yonahan. Shalom, amigo.
Hey, what's going on? What's happening?
Just right out of the Gutnik, the meaning of today's, or the title of today's Parsha. To connect and command. And that's exactly true. Jewish or Gentile, Jewish or non-Jew, those laws are what connect you, or the base connection, I should say. It's the base connection of man to God is via the law. The spiritual in Judaism is morality. It all really has to do with morality. It comes down to morality. There's spiritual stuff in every other religion that's all spiritual, and they do all the eternal life and crystals or whatever. In Judaism, it's about morality. And that's what your spiritual teaching, if your spiritual teaching is not enhancing you to be a better person, morally a better person, then you're not doing it right, in my opinion. I could be wrong. I've heard other people say it, but always consult your local rabbi. Look at me, I'm an idiot. I know nothing. You're
right about the morality, though. You're absolutely right about the morality, though, and this is as a person who's never been a Christian before, but has studied it quite a bit in the past. That's the one thing that some of these sects, you can't lump them all together because they're all a little different. But a lot of these sects of Christianity don't have any emphasis on good deeds. It's just simply, you must believe that this dead guy is God, and that's all you have to do. You can see, and then you see their daughters wearing the big cross, and there's like a picture of the Pope and Jesus, and then they are taken. and that's just one example, but I feel that the two things are related. There's not enough emphasis in some of these sects on good deeds and morality.
It's the notion if you believe, then everything gets better. The world gets better. All you have to do is believe. And
yeah, and a normal, like a thinking person would be able to see the hole in that. The problem is that they grow up in a family that all believe this, so there's a lot it's easy to find sympathy for them as well and compassion for them.
Sure. I mean, and most sects do have the 10 Commandments at least, and we've got monuments made of them.
That's true, and I find that interesting as well.
What's that, a monument of the 10?
Yeah.
It was all fine with me until the front page of the paper had a guy kneeling on one knee with his head bowed and his hand placed on it. I'm like, well, there goes that.
Yeah.
and
Yeah, I've seen it too. A lot of churches have especially the really old chapels, have the 10 Commandments like front and center, more so than even the JC, like some JC statue or painting or whatever.
Yeah, a lot of American churches don't mind going old school as best they can.
So how was everyone's fast today?
Did not fast.
You didn't fast. It's Purim.
I know.
Hey, so is it true that when Mashiach comes that Purim will be one of the holidays?
It'd be the only holiday. It would be the only holiday.
Okay.
Because it's the only holiday that's a celebration of happiness.
And you would think that, in that regard, that maybe like the Noahide Ger, this is like a lot of us don't like to do things like Jews, like we'll stay away from their holidays, and then that the argument is, well, where are our holidays? I think Purim is probably the best candidate. What do you think about that?
I would say, what about Sukkot?
Sukkot, yeah, I thought that was the other one. I thought I heard like last year, perhaps, that there was going to be two, and I thought it was Purim and Sukkot, but
Sukkot right now, I remember Path of Avraham stopped by. He's a Yemenite, smart guy, brilliant actually in many regards. He said something along the lines of, Path, if you're listening, and I'm wrong, please correct me. But he was saying that right now, prior to Mashiach, the most important holiday for Jews and non-Jews alike is Sukkot, because the idea is to have the non-Jew come to your Sukkot, and you can do an Abraham. You can sit and talk Torah all night and bring him closer to God, hopefully. And the other one, but after Mashiach, it will be Shabbat that binds the two. But right now, like prior to Mashiach, it's Sukkot that binds the Jew and the non-Jew together, as far as holidays.
All right, thanks for clearing that up.
I'm pretty sure I'm on the money with that.
Horse live on the Eagle.
Now, can anyone connect Purim to this week's Torah portion?
I'll be real honest with you. I know very little about Purim. I don't know a lot about it. To be honest with you, I haven't gone there.
I also don't know that much, but I can take a stab if you'd like. I don't know the answer clearly, but does it have to do with whether or not certain names are appearing in both in Esther and in
I have to ask Russ what's going on over there. He's like, sounds like he's juggling his cell phone. There you go. Thank you. You're immense, Russ. Thank you.
Before you answer, I'm going to take a stab too. Were you finished, Lee?
Just that. Just one preliminary question. Is Esther the one where God's name does not appear?
That is correct. Not even once.
Okay. I just heard just before I came in here that Moses' name does not appear in this week's portion.
Oh, nice.
So there's a slight little link there. Go ahead, James. That's all I got.
We discussed priestly vestments, and I'm aware that in Purim, there is a festival of fancy dress, or part of the festival is one of fancy dress. There's my connection.
Ooh, that's pretty
Sure,
good.
yeah. Purim, the Halloween for Jews, yeah.
Much better cause. And of course, Christmas time, some of us dress up as, old Jews. I'm kidding. I don't know much. Tell us, because you're there, John. So tell us, what is the connection? What would you say, or what are you getting at?
I honestly, I don't. I'm still continuing. We haven't finished this week, so I don't want to speak without actually fully studying. But
Right.
but both of you actually hit on some good points. Actually, 2 good points. Another connection could be that in this week's Torah portion, there was open miracles where it was out seen in public, and now with Purim, it's a hidden one. It's within nature, so it's kind of like a yin yang type of situation.
I have here. I just held it up to the screen, and we might have to go for this. If you want, I can read it. It's a children's book. This was the first book I ever bought. Before I did have a Chumash. I had my JPS, but this is the next book that I bought 20 years ago. Can you believe it's been 20 years? I've been this non-Jewish Noahide, God-fearing guy.
That's pretty good, James. That's a hell of an accomplishment.
I've been better. Hi, Alan. Hang on. I'm going to mute you just in case that.
Oh, my eardrums. Oh.
All right.
What were you saying? Yeah, you've been better.
I've been a much better God.
I think that was the Jew alarm. As soon as the rabbi came in the room, we got that big horn.
The shofar we've heard the shofar to know. I'm kidding. How you doing, Gav? Good to see you.
Meh.
It's that's a funny response. I asked at Shabbat last week. At Shabbat, I asked the rabbi's wife, how she's doing, and she's like, my feet hurt.
I don't know. It's 4:18 in the morning, and already this day is not quite going how I wanted it to. But
oof, rough.
Well, you got in here successfully. That's a plus for us anyway.
The rabbi
it
had
proved
the
to be the only
greatest.
successful thing I end up doing today.
Yes.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm thinking here. Maybe we should have had a Purim hangout. I just know so little about it.
I know we did like 4 years ago, like when the first season of back when we were called what were we called Noah's Nest?
No, it was the Noahide Nexus, and then
right.
And then
We did an entire reading of the Book of Esther, didn't we? We did it for because you're commanded to hear it at least twice. So I think we did that. Didn't we do a hangout where we just read the whole thing entirely? And that was actually fun hangout, actually. I remember that like quite a long time ago.
It's up on the website. It's up on the Idol Smasher YouTube page. I think our old pal Reuven has it up on his.
That was back when we had different members. We had Hermine used to come around, and a bunch of other people. Yeah.
It's a turnover, isn't it?
Now we know, it's a blessing. When people say, it's sad when people move on, but that's the blessing is when they go on to do their own thing.
Gav says this is his second favorite holiday from his most favorite book of the Bible. Oy, indeed.
That's an interesting question. What are people's favorite book of the Bible? I would like to hear people's answers. Mine would be Ecclesiastes, actually.
Bereshit. I'm still. That's such a that would be mine.
I have a really difficult.
Nice.
I have a really difficult time picking a favorite because I just like the truth. But I would probably say Bereshit, and then if from like considering my background or like a lot of my friends' backgrounds, like you can give I don't know, you can give the Proverbs to just about anyone, and they should be able to find some value in that.
Proverbs, yeah, that's it. That's a nice one. Nice.
Alan, you got anything?
They're all good. He's saying they're all good. Hey, Alan, what's your favorite book of the Bible? If you have a favorite, if you had to pick one. Sometimes I have like favorites of the week too. I've been taken by Isaiah a bit lately. I've been investigating more into that, looking into it, studying it, and Genesis.
I think Alan, you're like kind of like a revelation man, right? A little bit of a joke.
Trying to get a rise. We can't hear you. Okay. Well, I could read you about 2.5 pages here from this book about the story of Purim, if you'd like. Otherwise, maybe the rabbi or John.
James. I don't think you can hear Alan. I think you.
Are you talking over my boy Alan?
Is he talking?
He's going on and on like a church mouse, and you're just like right over him.
I don't hear him. Let me
it's okay.
X out of this, and I'll be right back.
I think it's because you muted him earlier.
No, don't exit out. Last time the hangout stopped. No, don't.
All right, go ahead, Alan.
He got raptured.
Ooh.
They got too close out of their willingness to fulfill Hashem's mitzvot, and they got burnt. Not necessarily. We see it as a negative thing, but it was really a righteous thing. They were righteous, and they got burnt. I forget what happened. And then they get like raptured. They got raptured, didn't they? They got puffed up in smoke. Sure, yeah, you can look at it that way. I like to put I like to put the positive spin on it. You know, they were good people trying to do the right thing. You know, what can you say?
All heart, no head.
Okay. Alan, you made a comment earlier that you didn't see any connection between. Oh, it was Purim or this Parsha you said, and the seven laws. Okay, can I? What about this? It's not really seven laws, but the seven laws might cover these things. In terms of the clothing, it's said that each article of clothing represents a certain human failing. Have you heard this before?
Yeah, the belts represents Lashon Hara. I think
Right. I've actually.
The Cohen's turban represented the evil eye. Something to that effect. Yeah.
Well, here I've got it here. Actually, I wrote it down quickly. The tunic
Oh,
atones
you
for.
gotta read it. Okay.
Yeah, the tunic atones for bloodshed. The pant, which we know is covered under the seven. The pants, sexual sins, again covered. Uh, the turban it would be like haughtiness, I guess you could say. The belt, negative thoughts. The Hoshin, miscarriage of justice, which would be the sixth law. The breastplate or ephod would be idolatry. The coat, evil speech, and the plate in the forehead, brazenness or arrogance. I'm not saying I'm not saying those refer to the seven laws. I'm asking if if those things are covered under the seven.
I when it comes to things like this, like the Mishkan and the priestly vestments, yeah, we kind of have to take the text at face value. But I mean, people who aren't priests, the average Israelite this isn't going to directly pertain to them, but it's good to know why, because when the temple's there and we bring an offering, they're the ones who are going to be doing all the work. So it's nice to know why they look like they do and what they do, and where they come from, their base, that sort of thing. But it kind of brings to that's why I brought up, okay, well, let's look at the Noahide Garin folk. What do you say to the holiness? Because there has to be some spirituality to a human being. What is the holiness of the non-Jew? What is there? Is it just being a Noahide makes you holy, that you set yourself aside? Are you actually setting yourself aside when you become a Noahide? Is there any holy action in keeping the seven? When I say holy, I mean separated. Separated.
Hmm.
So there would be no separation. You couldn't say that someone who rejects idolatry would be separated from one who regularly performs it.
Okay. Okay, so this isn't an argument. Just asking a question. When a non-Jew gives charity, is this a holy act, or could it be considered a holy act? That's why I chose charity, because it's not explicitly covered in the seven, as in terms of your point of view, which is their prohibitions, just don't do these things. So that's why I chose charity as an example. What do you? So
I
what is
think
your
I can.
stance on
I
charity?
think I can answer. I think I can answer you, Lee, a little bit. For us, the connection is it's a spiritual action, but it's not connected physically, if you know what I mean. Like when you do an act, when you do a mitzvot now, what Jew does, when you give charity, you're elevating the money. So like if I gave someone charity, I'm doing it for a holy purpose. So I'm just taking this plain money, not used for, used for everything thing. I'm elevating it for a good purpose, right?
Right.
If for a non-Jew, it doesn't really have that same effect.
So
It's not
non-Jew,
elevated.
everything that you just described, though, is not
Okay,
necessarily
let me give you.
Jewish.
Okay, let me put it this way. It's like Yaakov. When Yaakov put on tefillin, you could take the tefillin and he could just throw it in the garbage. Why could he do that? Nowadays, if you did that, it would be blasphemy. You would be blasphemy if you took tefillin and threw it in the garbage after using it. So what's the difference? The answer would be it's not connected. It's back then. The spirituality with the physicality wasn't connected. Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, they lived in a different time. Noah lived in a different time.
So
It was.
Are you arguing that a person can't take a portion of their check and elevate it instead of blowing it on the dancing girls?
What I'm saying, what I'm saying is you're elevating it, but it's not permanent. It's a momentary spiritual elevation that lasts for that precise moment.
And you don't get any credit from this?
Sure, God gives you a little mazel, a little panasa return. Sure, he gives you a little mazel. Yeah, why not? What do you mean?
I'm gonna dig deep on this subject here. I'm gonna dig deep on this subject of charity and the non-Jew and see what the actual laws are, because I've heard different rabbis say, a non-Jew doesn't have to give charity, doesn't have to give 10%, but is encouraged to do charity, and probably isn't even restricted from giving the 10 if they really wanted to do the 10%.
Right. Technically speaking, you could do anything you want. Any of the 613 commandments. If you want to dress up like a Kohen priest and pretend to be a Kohen priest, sure, go ahead and do it.
But all these examples...
we don't recommend it. All
of these examples have to do with something entirely different. Like in both examples, you're talking about dressing up.
Because a Jew can't dress up like a priest if he's not a priest. You can't be a Kohen if you're not a Kohen.
Right.
You could technically do any of the commandments. No one's saying you can't do any of the commandments. The thing is it obligated? Is it permanent? You have to do it? Does it have any sort of purpose?
Yeah, clearly.
Those are the questions.
Yes, clearly charity does have a purpose and beneficial effect on the world. Has nothing to do with wrapping leather around my arm or dressing up like something. It's not even apples and apples.
Okay, but with momentary spiritual elevation that happens for that moment.
Not to
It's
mention,
not you're not permanent. It's not a permanent thing that happens.
I don't. Why are you using the word permanent? It does. I don't even understand what that has to do with anything. It does have to do with brother to brother, and the effect of you giving that money goes on forever.
Because you could stop. What I mean by saying you can stop doing anytime you can stop doing any of the extra 7 plus extra, right? So you keep the 7, you have to, right? Because that's the oath you take. It's your birthright. You have to, and then you could do anything extra.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want to do,
9%.
Sure, 9. You're right.
11%.
You could go back. Sure, you can go back. That's the point. For a yid, you can't go back. You have you have to. You have to give charity.
Right.
God demands it. You could do it, don't do it, whatever. Have fun.
It's clearly a good thing to do, though.
Yes. Now I'm going to ask something else here. I'm going to move the conversation. We will get back to this. I like to, but there's a couple,
thank you.
There's a couple notions of being holy. The Jews are to be the light to the nations, correct? Their status of holiness requires a connection, does it not? Their separation requires them to connect to the world, to God. So while being separated, there's a connection. Now I'm thinking for the Noahide, we don't have quite that duty. We should help kindle that flame, yes. We should be that flame in our own right, yes. But I was wondering as well as far as the idea of being a separate people from the world, which Noahides in many cases are observed. When I say Noahide, I don't want to, I'm saying that term as I would Ger. I'm a God-fearing individual. We have a duty. Do we not have actually it's an obligation. I think it's considered, might be a commandment, but we have to get the world to behave. We have to teach them at least the 7. Convincing them God exists is actually another step. So could we consider the observant Ben Noach, the Noahide, Ger, whatever, as a separate people from the rest of the people of the nations? Don't we have an obligation to connect with them as well? Would that be on the same level? Well, we are, I mean, like in the now, you and I would definitely differentiate ourselves from, bless them, Catholics on Sunday. We would say, hell no. We've got the stranger that can eat Nivela and the stranger that that sold Nivela. There is an observant, non-observant kind of differentiation a couple places. Well,
I have an interesting question for Alan. I guess I don't necessarily disagree with you. I guess a Gentile's a Gentile, Jew's a Jew. We're member of the 70 nations, whatever. But I also kind of see what James is saying, and it's hard for me to say, okay, so like you take a guy, what nation is if a non-Jew becomes a Noahide and he's like a practicing and whatever you want to call it, observance, you know, what exactly nation is he part of if he's not part of Israel? Noahide in a sense that he's not a Catholic or Muslim or whatever. All right, so you're a member of the one of the 70 nations. Let's say you're a Canaanite. Let's say your mother and father were idol worshiping Canaanites, and you one day you came. Are you considered still Anglo Celts? Are you still considered Anglo Celts, or are you? All right, fair enough. Fair enough.
I want to read what Gav had to say over here in the side chat, unless you want to take over and say it. 1, 2, 3. Time's up. Okay. Rabbi Kostanov, I follow the advice of Rav Baron, who wrote Guide to the Noahide, if that's the Baron you're talking about. In this matter, Noahide should separate and live in their own communities while regularly reaching out to idol worshippers. Jews aren't to relate to the Noahide the same way they would a heathen. A heathen doesn't get as much leeway. You can save a Noahide on Shabbat. The Nokri, you have to let die. You can't proactively kill him, but you can't save him either. You're still, and then he goes on to say, you still belong to whatever nation you're born into. Yeah, I'm Celt. I'll be a Noahide Celt to the day I die. I'm a hot-blooded Noahide. Yeah.
That's pretty interesting what you just said there. I have to jump in because it's the first time I've ever heard it. So I'm pretty excited about this.
About what what Rabbi Gav said?
Yes. It's the first time anyone has ever said that Noahides should form their own communities. And I remember last week I brought this up about how we should like meditate or contemplate a land where the 7 laws are being observed. Imagine what a country or even a city or a town where every person is 7 law observant and is trying to be a better man or better woman. Imagine what that would be like. And here you're saying, pardon me?
Amish.
I want to play devil's advocate here. If the children of Ishmael and the children of Esau, right? If Muslims and Christians aren't technically B'nai Noah, then what exactly are they? So I mean, if
Muslims are.
But we just said that if you're whatever nationality you are, or whatever you are, you're still who you are. Like Anglo Celt Noahide. So why can't you be a Noah Celt Muslim Noahide? Why can't you be an American Anglo? You know what I'm saying? Like, how far are we going to go with this? Like, is Canada? Are we literally saying Canada and Great Britain and Ireland and America and France aren't in the B'nai Noahide commandments? We don't allow murder. We don't allow sexual immorality. Well, that Ooh, that's
Yeah,
okay.
trying.
We don't let theft. We don't let theft. We don't let animal abuse. We love animals. We don't. We put people. We have courts. I mean, we do. We do
Corrupt
have.
ones.
I mean, so what exactly is it? What exactly are we having problems with? The idol worship?
Idolatry.
The fact is that what's the problem?
Well, there's no crime in shituf. Like, you can't punish somebody for being shituf. So there's that fine line we're going to walk with the idol worshiping thing. I do think personally that there is a yawning chasm between the two, between shituf and idolatry. In Christianity, that kind of, because they acknowledge God, even though they might do actions that are idolatrous. So how do you, yeah, I think that's the one thing. I know they're trying with the sexual immorality, but that's being fought, and it's good. People still don't like incest. They still don't like bestiality. It's not acceptable. Adultery is not acceptable.
It's the details. It's the details. Like, we still have abortion, and there's certain.
Yeah.
What that? Right, corruption.
Happily, pridefully. But there are laws against it. There is an effort. There is an effort made. Mhm.
There are three books that were never written because there's nothing to put in them. Italian war heroes, Irish people who contributed to society, and Jewish business ethics.
Oh my God. Oh my gosh. That's
Sorry, I had to break it up with a joke. I'm sorry.
I heard a knee slapper yesterday that was pretty good. Now we're all adults here. There's no foul language, but what's the difference between a Catholic wife and the Jewish wife? The Jewish wife has fake jewelry and real orgasms.
That one's a bit rough. I didn't hear that. I didn't hear that one before. That's good.
That's horrible.
Yeah, oddly enough, I heard it from my wife. Who heard it from God knows who, but
Okay. I think
No pun intended.
We are adults here. I
Oh,
just hope
geez.
that only adults get this far in the video. I can't imagine a youngster getting this far into the video on YouTube.
Sorry, my bad. I it was getting a little tense in here. I wanted to maybe a little.
Well, something interesting happened to me earlier on the front of spreading the word of the 7 Noahide laws. So I had to drive with my boss, who has another job. He's a homicide investigator.
No
So I
way.
had to drive with him for the first time. I've never worked with this guy before, like just me and him together. And so we had to drive like for 2 hours to this job, work 2 hours back. And I'm like, oh man, what is this going to be like? Within the first 5 minutes, we started talking about the laws for when someone breaks into your home and whether you can kill them or not. Or, let's say someone breaks in my home, I strike them, they smash their head on the floor, they die. And then we had a discussion about this. So within 5 or 10 minutes, we were talking about the Noahide laws. to this guy who's been in law for his entire adult life. And he was extremely, extremely interested, and we talked for about 4 hours on it, and I ended up giving it or letting him borrow the Divine Code when I got home. So he's devouring that right now. He was very interested in the 7. So there we have it from a lawman. Like, this is it's pretty cool.
That is very cool.
More people are into it than they know. Most people are. There's what do they say, that there are more Jews in the world who don't know that they're Jews? There's more Noahides in the world than that don't know that. Yeah.
I think the most appealing thing that I've brought up to people about it is that it's your law too. You know, doesn't require belief. All you have to do is this, and once you spark that in somebody, and it doesn't conflict with a particular practice, which just might happen with some folks, but for the most part, they it's the fact that me too. And they're like, and the other thing is, I think it's really interesting that really entices people is that it's a Jewish thing. If you'll excuse the expression Jewish thing, it's a Jewish thing. They're always on the back burner. Nobody hears about Jews. You hear about them in Hollywood here and there, but nobody really gets it. And when you tell them that there's this, base law for all humanity, it's like you're included in this already. I think that's an appeal that you're not going to get anywhere else. That would require a conversion, require a belief, require a massive overhaul of your lifestyle. Whereas accepting the 7, there would be very minimal change, if any. But
everyone's heard of Genesis.
Yeah, and Noah.
Yeah.
All right, that too. The other thing I just want to bring up about holiness real quick is are we as Noahides to be servants to the world as Israel is our servants to the world? Is that part of our is that part of dinim? That's a tricky commandment, in my opinion. There's the dinim commandments is our missionary kind of a thing. That's where we would be missionaries, if anything. Should we consider ourselves servants to the people as Israel would be servants to the world? Because we are here to minister to the world who doesn't know, who is asleep, who's just lost or not awakened. Would that be, because I like the samurai here to serve. I dig that myself. So I part in my head kind of consider myself as such kind of a servant to humanity because of that. Is that something we should maybe aspire to or consider as Noahide folk?
Well, yeah.
Let's say a safe bet. Safe.
Well, is there anything better you could do with your life? I mean, are you making the world a better place by doing so? I think answer those questions, and there you have it.
I'm sure there are benefits. We don't get them, but
it's like Purim, Alan. It's hidden. It's a hidden miracle. Don't ever think that. I actually posted something on my Facebook. James commented on it. I know James saw it, where I actually talked about the merits of being a light unto the nations, and the merits of proselytizing. Well, not exactly proselytize, whatever you want to use, whatever word you want to use. I don't remember exactly what I wrote, and I can't exactly get to it. I don't know if James, if you could do me the favor and read that post that I put on Facebook, if you want. I thought it was pretty. It's commentary by Sophono, Rabbi Sophono, who was a great sage. Actually, he was a convert. He was actually a nice Italian goy who saw the light
this is an explanation why also his sons and daughters-in-law were saved. Noah's personal merits did not entitle him to demand from God that he also save them on the strength of his merits. There required special clemency, according to the verse in Ezekiel 14, Ezekiel chapter 14, verses 14 through 19. God discusses with the prophet the three men, Noah, Daniel, and Job, as possessing sufficient merit to be saved themselves, but not as having sufficient merit to entitle their families to be saved. The place these three men had lived was wicked, described by God to Ezekiel. The men of the city would not have been saved by their presence. The reason why these individuals were not as effective in saving the people around them was that they were devout and pious for themselves without trying to use their influence to convert their contemporaries to adopt their lifestyle. Another shofar. It's a terrible shofar. It's a horrible shofar. We can do better. This is what made them basically different from Abraham, Moses, and Samuel, and others like them who went out to win converts. This is what the sages of Pesachim 87 had in mind when they described such people. Two more paragraphs. Here we go. The Talmud distinguishes between the people who acquired the merit of studying Torah, but did not acquire the merit of disseminating Torah knowledge. Rashi in the Talmud contrasts Daniel's activities in Elam to the country of which Shushan was the capital, with those of Ezra in Babylon. The former, while learning Torah, did not teach it. The latter both learned and taught with very beneficial results. A righteous person who keeps perfecting himself is entitled to being saved personally, but he is not entitled thereby to save others on his account. While Noah did rebuke the men of his time, he did not travel the extra mile to try and convert them to do good. Our sages in Berachot 19 comment that if you see a Torah scholar who was guilty of something improper during the day, do not accuse him of anything in your mind during the following night, for surely he has done teshuvah in the interval. That is from Sophono. I think I get what they're saying about Noah. I think when in the Torah it says that the end of flesh has come, the end of all flesh has come before me. And on one man's merit, the world was saved. Because we brought that, I think John and I were talking about this, or maybe I just caught in a conversation, or somebody, like the animals were there for the sake of man. The universe was made for the sake, it was for man's benefit. So if we're going to wipe out the men, we're going to wipe out the animals too. But yet God saved animals, plants, birds, or fish, not fish, but reptiles, and then the family of man was saved. So, and I know he made no promises. He said the end of all flesh, and yet they were all allowed on the ark. It's like, I'm saving you because the end of flesh has come. Do you see the gray area that the pendulum's going back and forth? Do you see where I'm going? Does anybody see? I'm going to shut up now.
No, I get what you're saying, but I think it goes to this discussion that and thank you for reading that. I appreciate it. Actually, it's a great summary of what we're trying to discuss. I think that if we're really talking about merits and what are we supposed to do and how are we supposed to live in a better world and all this wonderful things that we're discussing and problems that we have and how to fix it, it's like I guess it all depends on us. Are we doing what we have to do? Are we? There goes the rabbi. Oh boy. What was I saying? I got distracted with a pop up.
Are we doing what we're
Are we
supposed to do?
wait the merits? I mean, it's like it depends on us, right? So if we continue to do what it sounds nice, like look, I'm just a b'nai Noach. This is what depends on me. Look, I don't have to do it. That's the type of attitude, really, what Noah had. It's like, well, I'm okay because I'm getting on the boat. Kind of. Go ahead. It talks about no, they were when it says like when Abraham was when people would come over for Brigham for Abraham and people would gather, during the parties and during the during the day, people wouldn't know what Abraham was. Like people like, where is he? Abraham was constantly preparing food for his guests. He was always constantly going out, fetching water from a well. That's the type of person he was. He never stopped telling people about who Hashem was. One God. God was God of love, God of mercy, God of kindness. That's constantly the type of person that he was. It even says in the Midrash that during prophecy, Abraham was having a prophecy, and two Arab Bedouins came to the door looking for food. He told God, "Hold on, I have to. It's more important that I help strange Arabs that I have no idea who they are before talking to you." I mean, that's the type of attitude you got to have.
Ooh.
Ooh, yeah, because it was right out. You're right, right after the Brit, right? Yeah.
Let's not forget Shem. Shem opened the first yeshiva. Shem was a priest. Melchizedek. I mean, I know we like to go Abraham. Abraham circumcised himself. I am not doing that. It's just not going to happen. But we forget about Shem. We forget about that there was a great man prior to Abraham, and I know it's not heavily discussed much in the
and also Aver. I mean, Aver, the first rabbi, the first Shielek. What do they? How do you pronounce it? Shielek. And basically, it's the Hebrew word for emissary. Someone who goes out. Someone goes out and teaches.
Yeah.
But anyway, Eve, Shem, Aver, they built schools. They built educational centers.
Well, I hear that Abraham studied with Shem, but also Abraham didn't need to study as much. He intuited God in anyway. He was that in tune. It was
more from what I've learned. It was more like Yaakov was more of the study. He spent his time in the yeshiva mostly. I'm not really sure about Abraham. I don't know exactly. From what I've learned, it was instinctual. Like he knew, he didn't really have to learn because he knew it himself.
Yeah, I've heard that he knew it since he was a kid.
Mm-hmm.
And I just want to take this opportunity to welcome Frank. And also, I have to apologize to Frank. I've been thinking about this for 2 weeks. And I've almost messaged him a bunch of times.
Because he said be right back. He did say be right back in the side chat. So
I'm back.
Oh, he's back. All right, go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah. I just have to apologize because the last time he joined us, it was the Gare one, when everybody was going off like crazy. He sat there, the most patient man on earth. And I know this for a fact. He said one word the entire time, which was shalom. to say goodbye to someone before he had to go, and I just felt horrible because I appreciate his contributions so much, and he didn't have a chance to say one thing. It was
No.
unbelievable.
My intent was really to listen. I just wanted to get some more info about, the movement and everything. So that's why I just stood by just to listen, and I learned a couple new things, but it was nice. It was nice. I enjoyed it, but I didn't have the intent to talk. Nothing really came up for me to even to ask a question, but it was good.
So I gotta ask you, what did you learn? You said you might have learned something. Can you recall anything you might have learned from what we were saying? Not mean to put you on the spot too much. And welcome back, Ross. Go ahead.
One of the feelings that I did get, that there was an actual movement with conflict, and but it was a very dynamic discussion. The questions that I had before are still up in the air. So, but it was kind of vibrant. It was like, okay, this is what's going on, and I started to get the sense that there was a difference between the Noahide and the Ger. And I started to see the distinction between the two. And I think that's one of the things that was kind of manifesting. So, because I thought they were kind of the same thing, but in that last hangout, I didn't see that. So that's basically what I learned.
That's cool. Thank you for sharing. Thank you.
That's no problem.
I just got back, so whatever happened for the past 20 minutes, I missed.
Good,
Just
because we
talking
talked
about
some
spreading
serious
word.
smack on you, Ross. I'm kidding.
No wonder I had to go get the fire extinguisher from my ears.
I don't know if I don't know much about it, but I started to do a little research because everyone talks about the gear movement. I typed in gear movement into Google one time. I think it was like last week. And one of the Alter Rebbes of Lubavitch Chabad is called the Rebbe of the Gear. And he's called the Rebbe of the Gear because he himself was a Gear. He was a convert, a non-Jew, the leader, one of the leaders of Lubavitch Chabad. And that he converted and brought a lot of converts to Chabad. I don't know if anyone knows anything about it, because that's when I typed in gear movement into Google. That's like one of the first searches that you'll find.
Yeah, well, I know Rabbi Katz. He just wrote a blog. He loves the Rebbe because the Rebbe was big on outreach, and he's the one that kind of said it's time. We're in the position now. Now it's he's really, his influence. I don't know if he directly and I don't know that much about the man. Bless him. I don't, but from what
I apologize. I got kicked out of the room because I'm on mobile. Can you just repeat the last minute of what you were saying?
I said, from what I gather, it was the Rebbe who really sparked the notion of Jewish outreach. If you'll excuse that, I don't know if I can say that, but that's what it is.
You're talking about the seventh Rebbe, the one that just recently passed.
Yes. And I know that Rabbi Katz spoke highly of him. Rabbi Dove spoke highly of him. He was the one who really sparked the notion of an outreach to the world. Yeah, the Rebbe's cool.
I got an update for you.
Update us.
Just this past Shabbos, a rabbi came over here from. Now this is what's weird. We've got tons of Chabad here in Houston, but this fellow drove way over from San Antonio, some Hispanic individuals that are members of the Native here in Houston have procured this rabbi to come and see them once every 3 or 4 weeks. But I got to sit in on his introductory meeting with this group, and right out of the gate, he flat out up front said, the Rebbe said that we as Jews need to be out teaching the 7 laws to the non-Jews. We need to make that our mission. And then he said, here I am.
Yeah. It's not. It's some place. I mean, it depends on how you look at it. I mean, we all have a difference of halacha, and it's considered an obligation, actually. Some say.
Well, they weren't able to. Jews weren't exactly able to do that sort of stuff. You know, say what you want about liberalism and the acceptance of everything. It has allowed the notion of acceptance has allowed the Jews to flourish post-Nazi Germany. I know there's issues. I'm not underplaying issues, but as far as Torah knowledge in the world, oh yeah.
It's not just that though. From a little bit is also from the Jewish perspective that there's not really anything to really do either. I mean, we go back and forth on this all the time, but like Islam and Christianity is not necessarily whatever you want to call it. So it's like what is there actually to do? You know, what is there to actually teach? You know, so that's the problem with that as well. So it's if you don't see like there's an issue, then there's really nothing for you to do. How much liberty do you need to actually change your mind on that, right?
Oh yeah.
I just want to, as the only Chabadnik, and actually I think Russ is a Chabadnik actually. As someone who goes to Chabad and someone who goes to a Chabad temple who has some Messies that go there, as a defense, we don't. Yes, we consider the Rebbe a Mashiach, but we don't consider it as the same way as the traditional meaning of the word Mashiach. The Rebbe was a leader of the Jewish people. That's what we mean by when he's the Mashiach. He was a leader for his generation, and he passed. We don't believe that he's walking around doing mitzvahs still. I just want to make it clear. I just want to defend because it sounds bad. And when you say that we believe he's the Mashiach, the Messiah, it kind of makes it sound bad. But we do it in a good way.
Ross, you mentioned that you got to sit in on this thing at this talk at Nativ, and the first thing he said was that Jews need to teach the 7 laws, and that this is a priority. Did anyone happen to ask, well, what about us? Or did he happen to say, like, is there any? Well, there's probably no commandment to do so, but are we encouraged? This is the only thing I ever want to know. Are we encouraged to from their perspective. I just want to hear a Jew say it. Yes, go out and teach the 7 laws, because I can't find one yet.
Okay, this is how it came down. You have a considerable number of people from Hispanic backgrounds, origins, and they have left their Christianity, Catholicism, whatever. They are walking towards the 7 laws. They are essentially walking away from their, if you want to go and say idolatry, say it. And he, for his part, said that it should be a situation where the Jews are teaching the 7 laws. Okay, so he happens to be Chabad. And he took what his Rebbe, or the Rebbe, Schneerson, I don't know that he calls him a Messiah or what. We didn't get into that. But he said there has to be a Jew, non-Jew connection. And I am here as a Jew working with you individuals who are obviously non-Jews to help you to further your walk away from your Christianity, idolatry, whatever you want to call it. He's trying to encourage these people to give up their belief system and start practicing. As simple as that.
Okay. Here's something that I don't think we've ever discussed before, but it might be significant. What about when a secular Jew, and I've come across this at least twice so far personally, runs into you and you happen, and the conversation gets around to, I'm a follower of the 7 laws of Noah and a Torah observant, if you want to say, non-Jew. What effect do you think it has on them, a born Jew? And well, obviously you have to, like, that's something worth discussing. You have to handle that very, very carefully, I think.
I've been close to something similar. Not going to name names, times, or places at the moment. I'm just going to say that it was a couple, and she's Jewish, and they have a little girl. He's not, and I went, no kidding. I'm a big fan of Torah. Big fan. And she, really? And husband comes in and says, well, we're not into that here. We're not really into that. She says, no, not really. No, we don't know. And when we'd been at, over a friend's house, whatnot, and we get to chat, hey, how you doing? Yada, yada. She, if she were to bring anything that might even get close to the heritage, he was real quick to snuff it out. And it took everything I had, every ounce of strength almost, to just not say a word, just keep my mouth shut, Maybe my presence was enough. Obviously, it sparked an interest somewhere. Yeah, I've been faced with that before. And now, if it was just me one-on-one, it's like, I don't do that anymore. Why not? What's the big deal? You need to go home. You need to go to Israel. I don't want to go there. Come on. You guys save the world. I would encourage, I don't know. But that's the one time it's been, and it took everything for me not to just blow the shofar in front of it. It took everything for me not to go there. And I could have blown the lid off of the place, but I wanted to be a nice guy. We were around other people. There's my story anyway.
I can relate to some of that. It's not just with, people who practice Jew doesn't like they'll call themselves Jews or Muslims or Christians, but I notice with a lot of people, it's really about the identity and nothing else. Happens to be, and they will talk about this identity, and there's many times where I questioned, like, so what do you think about this? They had no answers for it because it seems like they had no type of knowledge of their spirituality. These are several Jews that I actually talked to, and I talked to Muslims too, like in the past, but they have no clue about the religion whatsoever. But happen to be such and such, and they kind of define themselves with this identity. But there was no substance to it whatsoever when I asked questions, and I ask questions because I'm into I'm into spirituality. I'm into different types of how people see the world within their faith. But most times when I came across that, because of this proclamation of this identity that they had, I will ask these questions and I got nothing from it. All I got was like, I call myself this. And they define themselves that way. So I see a lot of that too.
This is a little bit off topic, but it's kind of something I find amusing. When I kind of discuss what I am, I tell people that I guess I'm a gear, and I tell people that, and when I say it to Ashkenazim that I'm a gear, I get it's like a disdain, like oh, why, like, not just because I'm a non-Jew, like, oh, a non-Jew wants to be a Jew, like, oh, disgusting, but also like why would you want to choose, why would you want to be a Jew, like they hate being Jewish, like why would anyone want to be Jewish themselves? But what I find that's funny and enough that the Ashkenazim. But what I find interesting with oh my God, my mind is going blank. What are the other type of Jews called? Sephardic Jews. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
With Sephardic Jews, it's such a happy thing. It's such a joyous thing. I was born Jew. I was born non-Jew. I'm a ger. I'm converted. Really? Oh my God, that's awesome! And they hug me, they'll kiss me, they're like it's like Judaism. It's so odd to me how I don't know whether or not it's because
some of that. I think because
because the Middle East. I think it's because of Middle Eastern European difference, like European,
yeah,
right?
they're from like the up north up there, and it's a very cold place, a cold type of atmosphere. Not just by weather, but by people. Like try to hug somebody up there, like they're just. But the Sephardics, Southern Europeans, and of course that's actually makes a lot of sense why they would react that way.
I like it. I mean, I especially the Persian Jews. They're good people. We have some Israelis who come to the temple. They're good people. I love the Israelis. Israelis, I have to be honest, they're more secular than secularists. You think human secularists are bad? You got to talk to an Israeli Jew. Oh boy. There are some. We had. There's actually a couple people from Morocco. There's a couple of Moroccan Jews. They're really loving, really warm people. There's Jews from all over, actually. They come, different types of Sephardic Jews, and they're really, I love them. They're so warm. They're so welcome. They're so happy, and they constantly tell me, when the first day you came here 2 years ago, you were a Jew just because of doing that, right? I don't get that with the Ashkenazim. It's like, no, reject you. You have to do more. What are you talking about? Like, you're Meshuggah. It's like, it's a completely different sort of outlook on life. And it really, it's daunting, and it's kind of sad. And I don't know. I guess it's because of European, the aspect to it. I mean, white people kind of, but what can you do? Whatever. I think Lee's over here itching to say something.
Yeah, just before Ross goes ahead, I have to ask. You were talking about how you mentioned all these religious Jews. Now, what was your experience with non-observant Jews? And then Ross can take over.
Is that a question for me?
Yes.
My experience with non-religious Jews, they kind of push away from me. They see me walk. I used to have a lot of friends, and they were Reformed, kind of whatever, secular, Reform-leaning Jews, liberal. And now that they see me with black slacks and tzitzit, and they see me with a kippah, they look, and they kind of like, I love you. I used to be your friends, but it's kind of like you're making me a little uncomfortable because I'm supposed to be looking like that too. I don't want to. I'd rather walk around with a tank top and blue jeans. Sorry. I got other things to do today. That's kind of like the aspect that I get. It kind of, secular Jews, liberal Jews kind of push away from me a little bit. They kind of like, it brings something out of them. They don't like it, I guess.
Now, Ross was going to say something. I have no idea where Ross was going. Ross has the floor.
Okay. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Loud and clear.
This is what I find beyond coincidence. James, I think you and I, maybe some others in the room, may know that my daughter-in-law is from Hispanic background, right? Maiden name, Mojaro. Mojaro. That same Shabbos that I was up there listening to this rabbi that came in, he's fluent in Spanish, Portuguese, Hebrew, and English, by the way. Quite an educated gentleman. And I came home, and very quite unexpectedly, but before I get to that point, you know my situation here. I've been isolated, alone, doing all my studies. Nobody has taken an interest, right? Well, I come home and I get this. My daughter-in-law corners me and says, "Can we talk?" So I said, "You're heavily into the Baptist church." It too. I don't want him to hear any of his input. I'm like, uh-oh. Side. I've heard that you don't accept JC. And I'm not sure where this is going at this point. Because she's had this little J statue and it got broke and she was in tears over it and all this other stuff. And as far as I know, she's still into this Catholicism bit. We come out here and she says, "I know you don't believe in JC." And we got into this very long discussion. Apparently, she somewhere has been doing a lot of thinking on her own and has come to the same conclusion. It's time to drop the guy. Blew me away. Then I turned around and said, "Hey, we just had a Hispanic influence rabbi come in to the little center where we're at, and he's specifically there to address the Hispanic community. And if you're interested, the next time he's in town, I'll take you up there. You can sit and listen. If you got questions, he'll deal with it. More than happy to do it." And she said, I'd love to go. Dude, I'm like freaking blown away here. All this time I've been walking on eggshells not to say stuff that would offend, and then here she comes out of the blue and says, I've had my doubts. I'm ready to move on. I'll drop it there.
I mean, God smashed her idol in more ways than one, apparently.
Yeah, but that's beyond coincidence.
Yeah. Well, there are no coincidences, and that's blatant. That's awesome. Well, heck yeah. And there is a strong Hispanic community there, you say, right? I mean, it's Houston. I mean, I know we're talking Texas here, but you say the Native. I've only met a couple of folks who came up to Waco. That's awesome. That's brilliant.
Some of these are newbies, just very recent joins. Some of them have been around for a while, and I've seen them infrequently as I go. But there were probably pushing 10 individuals there in total. And like I said, some that I've never seen before. But everybody was incredibly friendly, incredibly open, and very receptive. And at one point, I was helping to clean up after we were getting ready to go. I started to help clean up. He spun around in his chair as I'm walking behind him, stuck his hand out and said, "It's good." Oh, by the way, I was wearing my Ger Kippah. He said, "It's good to meet you. We need to talk. Call me." Okay.
Cool.
Someone was talking about you.
Yeah.
Had to have been, and I haven't got the slightest clue who. It's beyond me, but that's the only reason I can figure that he would have acted that way.
The only other thing could have been your Ger Kippah.
That's a possibility too.
Yep.
Absolutely. Just like it.
I want you to talk about, if you real quick, because we have Haftarah, we're going to get to here in just a few seconds, but something we were discussing before we went live. Can we talk about that, or you want me to just go ahead with the Haftarah and we come back to it?
Oh, you want me to bring it up? Oh, sure. I'll be glad to.
Cool.
For those of you, you know that Aaron lit the menorah every night, right? That was his job. Envision, if you will, the menorah on your left side burning, and it's nighttime. You also know that it was Aaron's job every day to put incense on the altar and light it so that the incense would burn all day, correct? Envision that altar with the incense burning on your right side in the daytime. You have a mental picture of both, right? Can you see these? Now I'm going to say something that I think might just kind of tickle you a little bit. The menorah and the incense altar, a pillar of fire by night and a pillar of a cloud by day.
Wow. Yeah, let that roast in your noggin for a bit here. We're going to get into the Haftarah. For those of you watching at home, the Haftarah is a section of the Hebrew Bible that directly pertains to the Parsha that we had just read. Now, we didn't actually get into, we didn't actually read out from it too much what it does, but it's the duties, the vestments, how the priest looks, why they have to be made of the materials they're made, There's actually a very special significance to the stones. They're not exact. It's not exactly enumerated a whole lot here, but it deals with the priest, his duties, and his vestments particularly, which are very functional. And I think that yeah, it was Lee earlier in the hangout. You got a dose of kind of how that works. Well, there's a whole lot more to it, like just about everything in Torah. There's far more to it than you get on the surface, but the surface is enough to make your mind work. The Haftarah this week, we're going to go to another prophet I'm really beginning to take a much more familiar approach to, is Ezekiel. We're going to go to 43, and it's verses 10 through 27, relatively short. This is.
Hey, James, could you send me a link?
Yes, sir. I would be more than happy to, Frank. I am absolutely thrilled beyond description right now to give you a link to my favorite little online source that everyone seems to agree with, is Mechon Mamre, MECHON-MARME. For those of you at home who don't have a Chumash nearby, there you go, Frank, and anybody else in the room. Once again, Ezekiel 43, we're going to go verses 10 through 27. This is Haftarah, Tetzaveh. You, Ben Adam, okay, I already want to start commenting, okay. You, Ben Adam, tell the house of Israel of the temple, and let them be ashamed of their sins, and measure the design. And if they are ashamed of all they did, and form a temple and its design, its exits and entrances, with all its forms, all its decrees, with all its forms and all its regulations, make known to them and write down before their eyes, that they may remember all its form and all its decrees, and perform them. This is the teaching of the temple atop the mountain. Its entire boundary all around is holy of holies. Behold, this is the teaching of the temple. There's a 2-year-old giving mama a hard time. These are the dimensions of the altar in cubits, each cubit to be a cubit and a handbreadth, but the base is to be a cubit, as is the cubit of the width. And the boundary upon its edge all around is half a cubit each, and this is the top of the altar. Now form the base upon the ground up to the lower Azara, 2 cubits with a width of 1 cubit, from the small Azara up to the large Azara, 4 cubits with a width of 1 cubit. And the Harel, 4 cubits, or the Harel, 4 cubits, and from the Ariel and above were 4 cubits. The Ariel is 12 cubits long by 12 cubits wide, squared toward its 4 corners. The Azara is 14 cubits long by 14 cubits wide toward its 4 quarters, and the boundary of the surrounding it is half a cubit, its base a cubit all around, and its ramp turned eastward. Then he said to me, Ben Adam, son of man, thus says the Lord, Hashem Elohim, these are the decrees of the altar on the day that is made, so that olah offerings may be brought upon it, and blood may be dashed on it. Give it to the Kohenim, the Levites, who are the offspring of Zadok, and who approach me, the words of Hashem Elohim, to serve me. A young bull is a sin offering. Take some of its blood and place it upon its 4 corners, and upon the 4 corners of the Azara, and the boundary all around. And you shall purify it and atone for it. You shall take this sin offering bull and burn it at the end of the temple outside the sanctuary. And on the 2nd day you shall bring an unblemished he-goat as a sin offering, and they shall purify the altar as they have purified it with the bull. When you have completed the purification, you shall bring near an unblemished young bull and an unblemished ram from the flock. Bring them near before Hashem, and let the Kohanim throw salt upon them, and bring them up as an olah offering to Hashem. For 7 days you shall make a he-goat sin offering for each day, and they shall prepare an unblemished young bull and a ram from the flock. For 7 days they shall make atonement for the altar and purify it, and they shall inaugurate it. When the days are over, it shall be that from the 8th day onward, the Kohenim may prepare on the altar your olah offerings and your peace offerings, and I shall grant you favor. The words of my Lord, Hashem Elohim. This ends the Haftarah. And I get excited because it's something you only get in Ezekiel, pretty much for the most part, is God addressing somebody as son of Adam. And that's like a backhanded compliment or a forward complimenting backhand. I don't. Ben Adam.
Ross dropped a beautiful jewel earlier. I have one for the group if anyone wants to hear it. And I got it from Rabbi Ginsburg on YouTube. You've probably seen around if you've looked up the Torah portions before. And it has a little something to do with Purim. We mentioned earlier that I guess in Esther, God, it's the only one where God doesn't appear.
Right.
And in this portion this week, this is the only one where Moses doesn't appear from the time where he makes his first appearance.
Mm-hmm.
And according to Rabbi Ginsburg, this is because he was in a state of ayin, which would be nothingness. So he was in a state of nothingness, which is so he's moving up a level. And that being a priest wasn't necessarily his purpose or his service or what he was supposed to do, but he did it for 7 days to get everything in order and to get it all set up. What's kind of interesting about this is if you take so we'll do some gematria here that he shows. So the ayin would be like the source of the soul, a nothingness, a state of nothingness. If you spell it out, it turns to 61. The second level would be or, the light. The second level of the soul would come to 207. And the third level is your name. So and encoded in that, I guess, is your purpose in the world. So we'll use Moshe, which has a value of 345. If you add up the 61, 207, and 345, you get 613.
Huh.
Sweet.
That's cool. There's also, I thought I might bring up a monster of a portion. And this is going to be a fun one for next week because I think we get to meet our demons in many ways. Is the sin of the golden calf happens in the next Parsha. And God begs, remove my name from your book. Because he was pleading for the Israelite, I'll make a nation of you. You will be my chosen. And Moses is like, no, don't make this all for nothing. And he begs God, remove my name from your book. And it just so happens the Parsha preceding that where that happens, he's not in the book.
I just want to say, just for the record, that Moses is technically still in. Yes, Moses' name is not written in this Parsha, but he's technically still in the Parsha because it starts off with, and you shall tell.
Right.
And so Hasidism teaches us, this is a Hasidic Orthodox teaching, is that your name actually it doesn't actually represent who you really are. So Moses was hired. I think Lee was actually trying to. What you were explaining was pretty well said. Is he was beyond his name. So another answer is that as sort of a righteous person's God has to fulfill in some form or another a righteous person's speech. So if a righteous person says, this needs to happen, and so God has to fulfill it. So the way God circumvented, because taking Moses' name out of the whole Torah, that would be kind of rough. So God just took it out of this portion. That was a compromise. I want to read before are we going off here soon? Are we wrapping it up?
Not well. I just wanted to get the Haftarah in there.
Oh, okay. Because I know you like to. I know the Haftarah is kind of like the cherry on top.
It's part of the cherry. We can do sprinkles.
All right. So you want to hear? Do we have time for sprinkles?
We've got plenty of time for sprinkles.
All right. Here's some rainbow sprinkles on Carvel. I don't know if you have Carvel over where you are, but in New York, I know Frank probably knows Carvel.
Oh yeah, I know all too well.
All right, so this is from Chabad of Roslyn. So ChabadRoslyn.com. It says, garments we wear. Why does Judaism put so much emphasis on clothing? Why does the Torah spend the greater part of this week's Torah portion discussing the fine details of a garb of a high priest? And why is it that Hasidim put so much emphasis on traditional dress? Shouldn't we be more concerned about ethics and morality, spirituality, and inner growth instead of dwelling on the externals? Mark Twain once said, "Clothes maketh thy man." Naked people have little or no influence on society. In other words, we are primarily influenced by externals. Many years earlier, the Rambam shared the very same similar idea in his work, the Mishnah Torah. Being that man is a social creature, his personality is developed by the actions of externals and not vice versa. Essentially, community, friends influence our lives and determine who we are. Yes, on the surface, the way we dress seems to be of little no consequence, but it plays the most prominent role in our lives. The Torah understands human psychology too well. It maintains that by dressing the part over a long period of time, eventually our insides will fall into the same place and align with our external garb. If we began by simply dressing like a hesed, like a true chesed within all of us will surely develop inside. We are to serve Hashem without fanfare. The very last mitzvah of this week's Torah portion speaks to the golden altar and the incense offering that we make upon it. Quote, "And you shall make an altar and burn incense upon it. And every morning he dresses the lamps, burns the incense before the Lord throughout the generations," unquote. Because this incense offering is at the end of all the related mitzvot, we may infer that it is the culmination of all the different services that are performed in the sanctuary. Every day, the incense offering were made by different Kohen. Only the Kohen were allowed to enter. No other person were permitted inside to perform this mitzvah. The Kohen alone in the divine presence holds true for godly services of every Jew. In a certain sense, every Jew, or Noahide gear, is considered to be a Kohen himself. As Hashem commanded, quote, "You shall be unto me a nation of priests," unquote. The highest level we strive for in the service of Hashem is without fanfare. A Jew, B'nai Noach, does not observe mitzvahs so that we can go viral on social media or most perfect manner of or even serving Hashem in secret. No, that God and its participants should be aware of it, just like the incense that were offered by the Kohen. In the sanctuary, the incense was not done in public. So too, every Jew observes the mitzvot Torah commandments in private as well as public. It causes the divine presence to dwell in the physical world. And this is based on the works of the Rebbe. Thank you.
Thank you. You know, I kind of wanted to bring something up. It was touching on a lot of what we were saying earlier. I don't remember what everybody was saying. I got to squeeze it in. I think something I've noticed is when we approach being a righteous human being, and we outline it purely by a set of laws, I think we do a disservice to the people. You know, people who go to the tents of Shem or would hang out with Avraham on the road, you know, or who might, know Jacob, who could,
Not only is it a disservice, it's actually considered a sin, isn't it?
Well, the point I'm making here is that, some people want to go the very dry route. It's all about halakha, nothing but law. And if there's anything the non-Jew is starved for, is something greater than the law. And which is part of the law, I understand. I'm not trying to differentiate or neglect but there's more to being a human being than just behavior. I know that's the base, but you don't get a house with a base. You have to start with a base. The base is there for something to build upon. And I think one of the things that makes the whole notion of ger, when you start reading what the ger is in Torah, from everything from the Jew to the non-Jew and everywhere in between, is that it's a much more welcoming philosophy. No, it's not halacha. No, you're not going to go there and get a book on 7 laws of Noah. They've got a few of those out right now. This gives you something a little different. It's because it gives you a place to belong. And I really don't like the differentiation that a lot of folks like. Baran was mentioned earlier. Having a Noahide community would be great. I would kind of love to live in a Noahide Amish community commune thing. That'd kind of be really cool, because we get internet in our homes. But my point is that I think there's something greater to attaching to Israel and at least becoming aligned with her. We learn what her priests do and what they look like. We learn of the Mishkan that our God, resides in, if you will, his presence. The Shekhinah, resides there. Like at Sinai, the Shekhinah was there. There's something more to that. I think that's an appeal that I would hate to think that this is the way Ashkenazim are, that they would be like, "Oh, why would you wanna?" And yet we have another, and other folks who are just, put your arms around you and kiss you on both cheeks. I would hope that we would want to be much more Avrahamic, that our tent would be open on all sides, and the notion of ger says that we're a part of something now. I'm not just a particle floating in orbit of this great thing, that I'm actually a part of this great thing. That means a lot. I didn't know how much it meant until it occurred to me that I was. First, I was humbly, I accept Israel, warts and all, please accept me. And then I realized that there might actually be a place for someone like that in the Torah. And I think that because you come to the Jewish people, you come to the people of Avraham, you should be more hospitable. I think we should be warm. We should make it a much more warmer thing that you're actually joining something greater than yourself. I think that would sweeten the deal, if you will, than just, we got to make it a law. We have to do it now. Law and only law. You're a Noahide. You don't have to do about anything. Don't worry about anything else, because we're not doing this yet. I get it, and I support it. I just think that there's something warming to being a part of something greater. I think it's very appealing to a human being. But I think that, especially for the ones floating out there who would attach themselves to Torah, that we might want to be a bit more hospitable. And I would hate to think that we would want to keep turning people away. And 3, the rabbi has to say no 3 times. So you tell that to someone up front, why are they going to bother asking? Who's up for humbling themselves 3 times to ask the same question, knowing each time they're going to get turned down? That's not going to help anybody. Yeah, I can understand at the time of the Holocaust in Nazi Germany and prior. I get that in some places still now, but maybe we should welcome in, what I'm saying about being warmer, and you get what I'm saying? Am I off?
Be a little more like
You're preaching to
Solomon.
the choir.
Preaching to the choir. Ross, what did you say, sir?
I said, be a little bit more like Solomon.
I guess so. Yeah.
I wish I had the wisdom like Solomon, that's for sure.
I mean, I look at the divine code and it's like, don't do this because you might be mistaken for a Jew. Don't do this because only Jews do this. The real dawning chasm between Jew and Gentile. Good. Maybe that's what's needed to the fresh. But there's nothing out. There's very little out there for the Noahide. I mean, we're getting it straight from rabbis, but as far as print and media and social media, there seems to be I'm preaching to the choir, so the choir's spoken. I'm going to shut up now. Somebody else talking.
There are also rabbis who say no, you should teach the Gerim or the Ben Noach mitzvahs, but teach them how to do it perfectly, so that even if they are mistaken, they're doing it correctly. Have you heard? Yeah.
There's a I don't know if this is on point, but there's a discussion in the Talmud that's talks about there was like a Roman woman who went to Rabbi. Actually, are we familiar with Hillel, Rabbi Hillel, and Rabbi Shammai, the two different leading dynasties of the early first century? So there was a Roman woman, noble woman, who came to Rabbi Hillel, Rabbi Shammai, and she said to him, "I want to be a Kohen Gadol." And he laughed and said, "You're silly. What are you talking about? Meshugada, right?" And he chased it away. Well, it turns out that woman went to Rabbi Hillel, and she said the same thing. I want to be a Kohen Gadol. I want to be a high priest. And Rabbi Hillel says, "Sure, okay, no problem." And apparently, the Talmud talks about how a few years went by. She studied Torah. She ended up converting to Judaism. And she meets Rabbi Hillel again and says, "It's funny that how I first met you, I said to you, I wanted to be a Kohen Gadol. Why didn't you tell me that I was a woman Gentile, that I couldn't be?" He said, "Well, because it would have scared you off. You would have never came back. You would have never stayed. You would have never learned Torah." I mean, obviously, I'm paraphrasing, but I think it has. I think that's an interesting dichotomy. Because we have one instance of one school of thought, one Jewish side that says, at all costs, it's the letter of the law, right? Shammai was always, that's his philosophy. It's the letter of the law. It's halacha. It's the mitzvah. We do what it does. We do what it says. And that's it. There's nothing more to it. Hillel says, no, maybe there's something else to it. Maybe there's a little more, like what James is saying. I think that what James was getting at.
Yeah, but the first rabbi just told you the wisdom behind his no.
Right. Yes. Yeah.
I've got that Soloveitchik work here. If anybody wants to, I'll touch on it briefly if you want.
I was going to ask you about that.
Oh. Yes. Touch. I haven't gotten a hold of this yet. Please.
Okay. Quite a few, several pages discuss the difference in the terms are coming up: Ger Toshav, Nochri, Akum, and so on. And it's kind of showing a distinction between where they are on the map, if you will. no kriyakum. And keep in mind that there's more than one type of any of these terminologies. You can't just lock somebody into a place. But the situation that it keeps discussing is that we are obligated to take care of a ben Noah. If he just keeps the 7 laws, does not do the Beis Din nor the mikveh. The Ger Toshav would do the 7 laws, do Beis Din and the mikveh. But it's saying that we don't recognize or accept the Ger Toshav except at the time of Jubilee. Not to say that he doesn't exist, it's just that they're not in a position to support him. You can take support on the monetary level, which I think is what he's trying to focus on here. But the situation is that, and he brings up the point that if you have meat that as a Jew you were not permitted to eat, you could give it to the ger or sell it to the nokri. Point being that both of these individuals have to be inside the land in proximity so that you can conduct this activity, giving or selling. The essential part of it, and he goes on to clarify by saying that anyone who will not, and I'm paraphrasing again just so that we can simplify and not spend all day. Anyone who will not disavow their idolatry is not allowed in the land at all. No access. So what I've come to understand from what I'm seeing here is that idolatry remains to be and always has been the paramount deciding factor. If you can give that up, you can come in as a ben Noach. If you can give that up and go before a Beis Din and do a mikveh, I believe is what they're saying, you can come in. But it both are on the level of having given up or walked away from their idolatry. It says that if a person cannot do that, cannot disavow it, they're not to even be able to cross the land to go from point A to point B, even if they don't spend any time there. They're just not allowed. So this is starting to show that this relationship between the Jew and the non-Jew, and you, whatever you want to say, ben Noach, ger Toshav, nokri, there's a relationship here, and even if you cannot support on another level, but what that says, if you understand the language, are you going to rescue this person, assist them, aid them, whatever, out of the fact that the law says you have to do it, or because you've made a friend here, you know this person, you're interacting with the person? I don't think they're going to be so selfish to say, hey, if I let that ben Noah get crushed by that car, I won't have anybody to sell the meat to. You get what I'm saying?
I think
There's
I get what
friendships.
I'm saying, Russ. What I'm saying is, if I'm ever being crushed by a car, I don't care if you do it because the Lord tells you to, or whether I'm your friend. Just do it for the sake of doing it, okay?
No, maybe that was not a good analogy.
I got you. I'm messing with you. I'm messing with you.
I know it. But yeah, it would be awfully selfish to just, I got to do it. But the picture is that there's interaction, there's people, there's the allowance for being there. And that's to me beyond the terminology and whatever else, whatever classification you may want to throw out there. It's just the fact that, hey, we have a community here. Let's make it work.
Amen. So there is a holiness to being a God-fearer in the world. There is a separation that we have to identify. And what would our duty do? It would be to attach the people of the world to the Noahide law. So there might just be a differentiation. There might be a holiness to a non-Jew. And I'm not saying a holy like the ark. I'm saying, a separated, distinctly separate thing that we are. I mean, Alan, bless him, he's big into that halakha. And what does this have to do with? Well, Torah makes me a better Noahide. How's that? Torah study makes me a better Noahide. Even just learning the dimensions of the altar, like we learned in Ezekiel. Just picture in your mind, there is a spiritual essence to that seemingly dry description. The temples, the Mishkan, there is something almost personally, like a little kiss of something. I don't know what it is, but there is something to the way it's described and laid out, and the reason why numbers are mentioned in the way they are, why numbers are used, dimensions.
Mm-hmm.
We're on something here. Maybe we can all get together in a nice Amish style Noahide community. Put up a rainbow on the front of it and scare all the Christians off. I'm kidding. Take back the rainbow.
I love it. Or at least, if nothing, possibility, just ask the Druze if they're willing to share their flag.
Huh.
The star with the different colors.
That's one version of it, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I know. I think of rainbow. I think of Skittles.
I knew that was coming.
Yeah, I was thinking it for a while. I had to bring it up.
Torah, taste the rainbow.
There's actually a person that goes to my shul that has a talit that's rainbow.
Really?
Yeah.
That was something Pam and Larry were presented, or an idea that it didn't take off, of course, with folks in Israel, with the rabbis in Israel. But yeah,
some of them are really nice. The talit. Some of them are very colorful. Some of them are nice. The one guy, Persian dude, he has a rainbow, but 6 color red. What's red, orange, yellow, green, blue, purple talit.
Oh, that's he's aware of, one for 10, what was it, 10 non-Jews for every Jew will grab a hold of one of those threads to come into the land.
Yeah, the when you get through the gates of repent, if you ever read the book Gates of Repentance, it's in there. 10 non-Jews, each of the seats. 10 Jews would hold on to the gates of repentance.
All right, we're going to wrap up the live portion here.
Well, before we go, I just want to do a PCA, public service announcement. It's
SPSA.
A PSA. I'm sorry. What is it? What did I say? Okay. Anyway, USA, Jewish service announcement. USA. So Purim starts right after Shabbat on Saturday, so Saturday evening. There's 4 things that we should do. Everyone in the room is a ger or a Noahide, so I think we're obligated, if we're going to call ourselves that, to actually at least try to fulfill these obligations. So we have to hear the reading of the book of Esther. So we hear it read once at night, and then the next day, so Sunday day, you would hear it for a second time. And so find your local shul or find people who are reading around your neighborhood. The second commandment is you have to give at least 2 poor people that you know a little gelt, a little tzedakah, a little charity, 2 poor people. The third thing you should do is send food to someone who's needy. So a needy person should at least send them like a basket of food. And the big one, the big thing to do is have a feast. So a big dinner, a big feast. I'm sure everyone's local synagogue or shul will have some sort of Purim celebration. Here at Chabad Roslyn, we're having one. I don't know if anyone can get to it. It's in Alberson at the local center for something. I forget what it's called. Civic Center or whatever. So yeah, feast, give food to the hungry, charity to the poor, and hear the reading of the book of Esther.
I hope this season has helped you, Lee, when you talked about you're going to push the tzedakah issue. Bada boom, bada bing.
There you go, tzedakah, right here. Here's your chance. Put up or shut up. Here it is, Lee. Put up or shut up. I'm just messing with you. I'm just messing.
Blessed are you, O Lord our God, ruler of the universe, who has chosen Israel to teach us your Torah and to plant everlasting life in our midst, that we may be your worthy servants, fashioned truly to your image, doing our duty according to your will. On that note, we are wrapping up the Nilvah Nexus for this week. Every Thursday night, tune in. If you've lasted this long, congratulations. Come back. Join the Nilvah Nexus Facebook page. You can message the Idol Smasher YouTube page or jamestheidolsmasher@gmail.com. On behalf of Frank, Ross, Lee, John, and myself, Shabbat Shalom, y'all.
Shalom.